Welcome to this episode of Moms, Maths and Manuscripts. Today's episode is another special interview that I had with Emilia Villegas, a hormone health expert and wellness coach. Emilia's work focuses on helping women not just merely survive but thrive, specifically in perimenopause and menopause. But I wanted to pick her brain exactly about the topic that I find particularly interesting when it comes to hormone health, menstrual cycle, and our cyclical living is hormones and productivity, the way our hormones affect how productive we are, how focused we can be, what kinds of work we are best or most equipped to excel at in a particular menstrual cycle phase, and how to figure it all out and how to optimize it to your unique situation, to your unique stage of life or stage of your cycle, so that you can be sustainably productive and work with your body and not just push against it all the time and potentially make your situation and your productivity as well a bit worse. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a wonderful conversation. We shared our stories. We talked a little bit about me as an example, as an exemplified coaching client, and Emilia told a few tips and tricks about what I could have done in the past and what, if you recognize yourself in this description and this situation, what you could potentially implement into your life right away. And we also talked a little bit about how specifically scientists, but any overachievers, any really passionate, really ambitious professionals could little by little begin bringing their work life into alignment with their cycles and their shifts in productivity depending on the stage of the cycle. Enjoy, and let's welcome Emilia in. So today I'm joined by a lovely hormone health expert called Emilia, Flow with Emilia, and she is here to talk about hormones and productivity. So we will discuss a little bit our typical, let's say so, view on productivity and how it actually can impact our hormones, how it can impact our hormonal health, and in turn impact our productivity in a negative way. So decrease it. In pursuit of increased productivity, we can actually have the opposite effect. Let's do this. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so happy that we can see each other. We can actually kind of interact face to face and not just face to a blank screen on the phone.
Agree.
So yeah. All right. I was just introducing a little bit the topic and saying that we're here to talk about hormone health and productivity.
Amazing.
And how that can impact, one thing can impact the other, or our typical view of productivity can impact our hormones and our hormone health.
Yeah, perfect.
So, yeah, let's start with you, actually. Since you're my guest, can you please just talk a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself? How did you arrive to the decision that, okay, something needs to change about the way you view your hormones and your hormonal health? And then how did you arrive also to helping others?
Of course. Thank you, Ksenia, for having me as your guest. I'm even more excited to be here after all the technical difficulties. So super happy to be talking to you as well, face to face. Well, my name is Emilia. I am a hormone expert and wellness coach. And I've been on this wellness journey already for almost 3 years now. My wellness journey started in 2022 when I started experiencing what I know are today hormonal imbalances. When I was having all these symptoms, back then, I didn't know what they were. They included migraines, but they would be like monthly migraines that sometimes would last even 2-3 days. Headaches almost every day, anxiety for the first time in my life. My libido was also really low. I was constantly emotional, and you always say, oh yeah, it's the hormones, but at some point it's like all the time you're like, okay, something's happening. Just to name a few, I was 39 at the time, so it was also really scary because I didn't know what was happening to me. I think one of the most scariest things was also that I wouldn't recognize myself in the mirror. I would look at myself and I didn't know who that person was, but I couldn't put words in it. And it was so difficult and so scary for me that even though I'm a very communicative person, I didn't tell anyone for months. Like I think sadly many women, I was suffering in silence for many months before on a migraine episode I was having on a trip. I was with some girlfriends and I started having another migraine episode, but that also triggered a lot of anxiety because I realized then that I couldn't stay quiet anymore, that something was really wrong, that my body was screaming for help. But because I didn't understand it, I was like, I need to speak out. And I called my mom. I was like just crying with her on the phone. And it was my mom who said, that sounds like hormonal imbalances. And I was like, what was that? Like, completely like, we have this view of, oh, we don't have to think about our hormones until we're in menopause almost, right? Or just think about them on our periods, And she said, that sounds a little bit like what happened to me when I was on the pill. This is obviously 30 years ago. And at the time, I had the hormonal IUD for 14 years because I didn't want to have kids. So I got it since I was 25. Doctors, I've lived in many places around the world, everywhere in the world. Doctors were like, oh, you're fine. You're healthy. You can keep it on until menopause, almost. One of the side effects of the hormonal IUD is that you don't get a period. I used to ask about that constantly, and they said, oh, it's fine. You're healthy, so it doesn't matter if you don't have a period. Okay. But of course, after 14 years, my body started complaining about it. For those of you who don't know, what happens with birth control is that it suppresses the normal production of all your hormones, because obviously that's how they prevent you from getting pregnant, the different methods. So when you're suppressing the normal production of hormones, we'll get into it, of course, but there's so many other effects, and it has can have a negative impact in your body if you do it for years on end. So I went to the healthcare system here in Amsterdam, where I live. And unfortunately, again, like many women, I didn't get any help. The gynecologist, she actually said to me, if you don't want to have kids, because I wanted to remove the IUD. I said, well, I don't know what I need to do, but I think I need to remove this because it has some synthetic hormones, whatever they meant. I know now, but at the time. So I need to remove it. And she said, well, if you want to remove it, I can give you the pill. And I said to her, this is me also crying because I was very vulnerable. I said, I don't want the pill. I just want your help. She said, well, I cannot help you if you don't want the pill because you don't want kids. That's it. Dismissed me completely. When I asked her if she could help me with my hormones, her response was, I don't know about hormones. You'll have to Google that and send me on my way.
Wow.
So you can imagine when I left, I was crying, angry, frustrated, everything. But that's what actually triggered my drive to think, well, then I'm gonna figure it out on my own, because I refuse to believe that at 39, this is how I'm supposed to feel. Of course, in between, there's the process, the working out with the mindset part was a big part of my journey, because I did feel like I was broken, that there was something wrong with me, even though it's not. But that's obviously, a very common feeling, unfortunately, with us women when all of these things start happening. So what started as a hobby of, let me start listening to podcasts, to experts, read books about it and understand what's happening, started turning into a passion. I even did like a little hormone course of 5 weeks. And it started turning into a passion for several reasons. First, because I really was loving the topic. I started feeling empowered with the information I was learning, understanding my body, understanding what was happening. I heard the word perimenopause for the first time. It freaked me out. It doesn't anymore, but it did freak me out at the time, of course. Now I've changed my whole view and narrative with that word, because I see it as a new era of power and rise. That's another conversation. But I still had a long journey ahead of me that lasted a long time. But I realized that by doing changes at home, I was already feeling better and I was feeling empowered, because at least I knew what was happening and I was working towards my healing. And then through this whole journey, it's when I had the opportunity to also start to certify myself as a coach. I was also at the same time going through another process of leaving my current job in tech, which I was never super passionate about. So I was trying to figure out what to do with my life next. I was about to turn 40. So both things were happening at the same time. My own healing my healing and then my professional life. It was a lot at the time. so many roller coasters and up and downs, but then at the end, they both merged together. Because as I was studying and healing myself, I realized that I was not alone. First of all, that so many women are unseen and unheard, and not dismissed like I was. And I also realized that I wanted to support women on this journey because I didn't want women to feel the way I did, so alone and powerless. So that started shaping my business, inspiring my mission of helping other women, empowering other women, raising awareness about our bodies, as well as being an advocate for women's healthcare. And then here I am over a year ago, I quit my full-time job, never looked back to tech, and I'm now a coach, helping other women, helping make a difference on women's healthcare. And yeah, here I am with you today.
Yeah, this is beautiful and also heartbreaking that you had to go through this. And this is a very common story that we are dismissed in healthcare or by medical professionals. I can fully relate to that. Like my own, like I was not on such a big journey, but I started learning. Yeah, I started learning about hormones and what is actually happening and how I can maybe address certain things, because my periods were always horrible. They were always very painful, and ever since they started, so ever since like I was 11, I think 11 or 12.
Okay.
And the only answers that I was getting as a child, or my family was getting when I was that little, is either birth control at 11 or 12, or you will feel better after you have a child yourself. And I'm like, now, thinking back to it, this is just completely mind-blowing and crazy to hear that when you're 12, that you are supposed to suffer for all this time.
20 years or 15.
Or however many, or maybe you never want to have a child and then you are always suffering, right? So hearing that was just ridiculous, but there was no answers. There was no change it. Like I'm not blaming my parents because they didn't know any better, but I am blaming the medical system because they could have thought a little bit about it and addressed that a bit, instead of just saying, well, either birth control or, just pop painkillers like it's candy. And that's what I did.
What symptoms did you have?
So I was just in really intense pain all the time. On the first maybe 2 or 3 days at least, if not longer. Periods were always heavy, and then eventually as it went along, so the doctors were always telling me that after a few years it's going to regulate and it's going to get better. It never got better. They did get regular, but they were still regularly horrible.
I'm sorry.
And then eventually I started developing also some hormonal acne and skin issues and severe PMS symptoms. So before my period, I was always incredibly emotional, crying every single month. Like, I didn't have any reasons to. I couldn't understand what was going on, but I would just bawl my eyes out. And when you are a teenager, like there is also so many other things going on in your life that on top of that, also this is a lot. And it was never really getting any better. I eventually got on a pill, but also didn't really like myself on a pill and didn't recognize myself. It was messing with my head a lot. And I stopped eventually. I think I only lasted for about a year.
Okay.
And then between getting off the pill and also experiencing all the withdrawal and actually realizing that maybe there is another way, maybe there is also some, cycle syncing or whatever, we're going to get into it. There were, I think, like 3 or 4 years of suffering in silence and not really doing anything about it, not really knowing what to do. And
by then
I would just
in your 20s. Sorry.
Yeah, that's like 23 to 27-ish, something like that, something along these lines. And I would have to take days off from work, or I couldn't go to lectures when I was still in university. I couldn't go to classes, and I would have to just take time off pretty much every single month because I couldn't get out of bed. And at some point, this is just not sustainable. And then when you're working, your colleagues or your bosses are going to start kind of side-eyeing you a little bit. Maybe you're pretending, especially if you don't really want to disclose that you're taking days off for that reason. And sometimes it's just not available to you, right? Like, I'm very grateful that here in Austria, where I live, I could take up to 3 days at a time without providing any explanation, without providing any doctor's note. But not everywhere is like that, right? So in some places you just cannot do that. You cannot not show up to work for no reason. So yeah, then eventually I started practicing yoga. I started becoming more interested in more kind of holistic approach to health and well-being. And then at some point I discovered, through the powers of Instagram, I discovered another hormone health coach, and we did chat because I thought, okay, you know, I'm out of options. I have to do something because I don't want to be in pain all the time. And I don't want the answer to be the pill because I didn't want to go back on the pill or on any hormone birth control. And I don't want to be this sad, sobbing, emotional person all the time. I want to do something about it. So we did chat to her, and she kind of opened my eyes on this topic. And from there on, I started introducing small changes that we will also talk about a little bit later. And I started seeing huge difference very quickly. That the periods got better. I started seeing that the energy levels, the fluctuations in my energy, in my focus, and my productivity are not so dramatic, or at least if they are, I can work with them instead of trying to constantly push against the wall and push against my body.
I love that.
And yeah, this is where we are now.
You still work with that health coach?
We did have a small kind of deep dive of 90 minutes with some changes that she suggested, and I implemented them pretty much right away and in little baby steps, and then eventually I added a little bit more. And then I also took a course from her about fertility awareness method. And initially it was more about just learning more about the topic and learning more about my body. And we did, with my husband, we did manage to first prevent pregnancy naturally through that, and then also conceive very easily when we were ready to have a child. So I do credit that
that's lovely
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but obviously, like, this is such a huge topic, and our hormonal health has implications not only when it comes to just personal well-being and preventing pregnancy or getting pregnant, so fertility, but it impacts everything. So this is something that we don't really understand, right? How our sex hormones impact also other things in our bodies. So maybe let's touch a little bit on that. What do we get wrong about hormonal health and productivity?
Well, I can tell you the first thing that comes to mind is that hormones are just for your period and the mood swings. That's such a narrow view, because hormones, like you very well said, impact everything. And when I say everything, it's caps, literally everything in our body. We have over 50 hormones. So they would impact our mood, the way we think, even our decision-making process, our immune system, our energy, our sleep. From morning to night, our hormones are working for us. So I think that's a big misconception, that they only affect your period. So for example, speaking of when someone has either missing periods or very painful periods, that's the way of your body saying something is not working, we need help. What the root cause may be, there's so many options, which is so good that you work with a coach. The first year I did a lot myself, but then for the second year I actually started working as well with a coach, that has helped me incredibly, because there's so much you need to look at for the root cause, and it's that accountability piece as well, right? But I would say definitely that's one misconception. Another one would be that you don't worry about menopause until it happens. That's certainly not true, because perimenopause, which is the stage before menopause, it would last between 7 to 10 years. and it can start as early as your mid-30s. In fact, I was in a conference in Austin of wellness and biohacking. It was great this past weekend. And one of the doctors, Dr. Vonda Wright, which I love, she was actually saying there's studies now where your brain actually starts changing from age 35, even if you don't feel it. So the changes will start happening. Then however women feel the symptoms or not, that's obviously very personal. But waiting until you're 50 or waiting until you get all the symptoms, we don't even know sometimes, then that's, so I think we should start thinking about, like you said as well, what changes to implement, how we can prepare our body. It's not about causing fear or panic. It's just knowing how to support our body, because our body is going to need different support when we reach our late 30s and throughout our 40s. What we've been doing up until then will not work the same way. In most cases, of course, will not work the same way because of the hormonal changes we're going to go through. And I would say the third one, just to keep three because there's so many, but misconceptions would be that perimenopause is not about getting old. I work a lot on like changing that narrative and that misconception, because perimenopause is simply, not because it's simple, but just to put it very simple, it's a sequence of hormonal events, meaning your ovaries will start to retire because your reproductive years, yes, they will end, but it's not the end of you. It's the end of a chapter to begin another very powerful chapter, which will be the second of your life. So it's not about getting old. It's just a hormonal, a hormonal sequence of events that would eventually have your ovaries fully retired from reproduction.
I love the beginning of a new chapter. It's, I think, rare that we see maturing and growing wiser in this way.
Yeah,
it's a good reminder. Yeah, because and what you said about kind of preparing for the changes that are happening or going to start happening from the age 35 plus is so important, because we think that we can just go on in the same way and things will kind of like fall into place by themselves, but at some point we might be hit with an unpleasant realization that things don't work anymore and we need to now scramble to find something that will. And instead, why don't we learn about it and prepare a softer landing for ourselves in advance?
Oh, I love that. Exactly. It's like a softer landing. I love that, because the reality is that it's going to happen. I mean, the alternative, if you don't go through perimenopause, it's because, you're not alive. It sounds hard. It's true. We are going to go through perimenopause and menopause. So the what I like as well about the preparation is that, because you have, let's say, age 35 to 45, it's a good time to prepare. It doesn't matter if you're 44 as well. It's never too late, but it's sort of like a good gap, because that's still when you still have youth on your side. You still have your regular reproductive hormonal fluctuations working for most women. I mean, give or take the years, of course, but you still have a lot of things in your favor. If you wait till the last minute when the symptoms start to hit, because the symptoms are going to come. Now, severe, it will depend in three different factors. One is obviously genetics. The other one, which is very important, it's how was your period and your cycle in your reproductive years, and of course, lifestyle. So if you have the tools, we have the studies nowadays, and the information is everywhere. It's just taking charge of our hormonal health. Because also how we go through perimenopause will have an impact on not just our short-term health, but also long-term health. By long-term, I'm meaning like, the last decades of lives, the second half. It sounds a bit dramatic, but the second half of our life.
Yeah. No, this is also a really good thing to keep in mind, that what we are doing now is going to have long-lasting ripple effect all throughout until the last breath that we're taking. So let's shift gears a little bit and come back to productivity and focus. And can you As the expert, tell us or walk us a little bit through what is actually happening throughout the cycle, throughout, like, let's say the regular cycle, it's 4 stages,
Yeah.
and how it impacts our focus, our productivity, attention span, things like that, you know.
Yeah, of course. So we have on a regular reproductive menstrual cycle, 28 to 35 days, give or take. We have 4 phases. So the first, and our cycle begins on the first day of our period. For those people who don't know, our cycle, that's when it begins, on the first day of our period, and that's the menstruation phase. During the menstruation phase, of course, that's when we get our bleed. And it's a phase where we, our energy and our focus might be lower. Of course, these are general guidelines, but it's important that everyone also sees their own patterns. But it's a phase of reflection and a phase of reset. Our body's already going through a lot with the bleed, so it's important that we give it the support it needs. It doesn't mean that it's the opposite of productivity. I can't highlight this enough. Rest is not the opposite. It will set you up for success for the next period. And also, rest doesn't mean, unless of course it's very painful, which then we now know that's a red flag. But rest means that it's the time, because both of our hormones, our sex hormones, estrogen, actually our 3 sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, are at their lowest point. We are gonna feel a little bit, that's why we feel a little bit like more in this cozy mood, less sociable. We don't have this go-getter attitude, and that's normal. So deep focus is still possible. You can plan. So it doesn't mean you just sit down and, I cannot do anything. No, it's more like deep focus work. Deep focus work to kind of like prepare and plan, organize for the cycle coming ahead. Because then what happens? We start getting out of our period, we go into our follicular phase. As we go into our follicular phase, estrogen will begin to rise, meaning our energy will begin to rise. And also when estrogen rises, also our cognitive function, because estrogen has a very close relationship with how our brain functions. So we will start feeling more energetic. What this means is as well that it's a great time. Well, estrogen would also boost serotonin and dopamine. So that would improve focus, creativity, motivation. Your communication skills will be heightened, networking, brainstorming. Of course, you have to go like feeling with emotion. It doesn't mean like you finish your period on the next day. No, it goes like this. It's a good time when you start trying new things, more risks. If you have that difficult meeting with a client or work conversation, this is when it will be good to have it. You start feeling that like go-getter attitude. Your brain is more clearer and sorry, I'm a little bit jet lagged, so
That's okay.
we have more resilience to stress. Sorry, we have more resilience to stress. I'm on my luteal phase, so in a week or so I'm gonna get my period. So we have more resilience to stress. Estrogen helps us have more resilience to stress. So that's why you can deal with more things coming at you. So then we take advantage of that. And then as the estrogen continues to rise and rise, we are going to reach the peak of our cycle, which is ovulation. Ovulation, it's the most fertile window in many aspects, not just the aspect of fertility for conception, but also it's a period where all of like our hormones, well, not all, estrogen and testosterone are at its highest level, meaning you have a lot of confidence, you have charisma, you feel, even your self-talk is more positive. You get dressed and you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I look great. And maybe 10 days later you put on the same outfit and you're like, oh, why do I don't look great. 10 days ago I did, but it's just all self-talk. It's again the hormones having that influence in us. You're more goal-oriented, risk-taker. Again, great. I mean, if you were already feeling good on the follicular, this is like an enhanced follicular phase. For people who do content, they film themselves. It's a great time for filming, for speaking in public. Of course, I understand life still happens, and you cannot plan absolutely everything. But it's good to know these things because then you can be more proactive. And if there's a meeting, you can move it. If not, okay, you'll have it, but just you're aware of how you're going to be feeling, right? Testosterone boosts, a lot of like confidence and motivation. So then you're at your peak. And then as you start, like once you reach ovulation, once you start like, once that's finished, that phase, which is only lasts like a few days, then you enter into the luteal phase. The luteal phase is the last phase, is the longest, because usually they have second half of the cycle. A very short luteal phase, it's also a red flag, just FYI. And the luteal phase, estrogen will start to decline, same as testosterone, and progesterone will start to rise. And progesterone is a calming hormone, the hormone that makes you more inward instead of so outward. But this is a great thing, because it's a phase where you can be more detail oriented, more reflective. If you need to do editing, reviewing, little tasks that just require, again, that deep focus instead of go getter, it's great for it. You have, because you have less estrogen, you don't have a lot less estrogen in your body. That's why you're less resilient to stress. So things that didn't upset you before might upset you. That's why sometimes mood swings, because if it's not managed properly, then the mood swings can get out of control. It's normal to have some, but if they're out of control, like for example in your case, then this is a red flag. So deep focus work, not multitasking, finalizing projects, organizing, and setting up plans and systems for the new cycle. So that's like in a nutshell. Of course, I could go on about so much more, but in a nutshell, that's how it goes. Our brain changes up to 25% every month when we have a regular cycle. So all these changes cause a change of 25%.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just being in tune with yourself. Yeah. Once you reach the end of your luteal phase, it's when you get your period again, and then the cycle starts over and over.
So. Thank you for that. I think this is so, since I work with scientists, let's use science as an example, but I think this can be relevant to people in any kind of stressful careers, or maybe careers where your job is seen as a passion and you are kind of putting pressure at yourself, or maybe there is outside pressure on yourself. That, you know, if you're passionate about it, you have to be on all the time. So maybe it can be like medical professionals, scientists, maybe people in like high stakes corporate jobs, maybe artists, because it's, you know, it's a passion, and then you have to work all the time. So as you said, life happens, and there's no chance that we can foresee and plan everything according to our cycle. But I think this, you said it well, that, you know, little things and little changes, if we can do them, if we can move a meeting and schedule it for a phase of our cycle where we feel better, that's perfect. That's already enough. And even maybe even just awareness of where we are, and, you know, knowing why we feel the way we feel in a given phase is already enough at some point. But then, you know, if you have to have a difficult conversation with your PhD thesis supervisor and tell him that you're an asshole and you need to supervise me better, then maybe schedule it for the phase where you feel like, I'm gorgeous and amazing and you don't appreciate me, right?
I love that. I love it.
So yeah, maybe there's little things with little changes with how we schedule things. Well, we don't have a lot of time, but let's quickly maybe talk about ways we kind of unknowingly push against this. And we were discussing this, we can use me sort of 6-7 years ago as a case study, and all the things that I did wrong in pursuit of productivity or in pursuit of my career. So I can just tell you kind of roughly how my life was structured or unstructured. I was,
We think we are, but actually when it's so chaotic, it's the most unstructured.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think our view of productivity in general, like the most typical quote unquote view of productivity, is that we have to be consistent, like day in and day out. And then you realize that as somebody who has periods and monthly cycles, you cannot be consistent because you are fluctuating, and your energy, your brain changes, everything changes, right? So your view of productivity has to change.
Yeah.
But then it's not seen as such in the environment, in your culture, wherever you're working. So your maybe expectations from the outside and also what you put on yourself are that you have to be consistent every day. And sometimes then it looks like you're just kind of punishing yourself with more work.
Yeah.
Because you are not so focused, you're not so productive. So you are staying longer, you are coming in on the weekend to catch up on something. So this was my story. Working regularly on the weekends, working long hours, staying into the night sometimes.
And how were your periods?
Painful, horrible.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, this was my body screaming at me to stop that.
Yeah.
But then it's kind of a loop, right? You are not so productive because maybe you're closer to your period, and then you are thinking, no, I have to catch up on this. I have to stay longer, and then it progresses into the next cycle from there. So then there were also things like surviving on coffee.
Yeah. Okay.
So coffee instead of breakfast,
intake,
coffee instead of lunch.
Fits to the excess cortisol that you already have in your body.
Exactly. So that was one of the things that I told the hormone coach that I worked with. I'm just not hungry in the morning. I want to have a coffee and that's it.
Yeah.
I want to have a coffee to wake up, and then, I will eat later, or I will just have lunch. And she was like,
Yeah.
maybe that's the problem.
It's very common. Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because it's the worst you can do to your body, but it's very, very common.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of women do it, and I'm not blaming women who do it. It's just, again, nobody told us or taught any better, right? So we just do what we think we're doing okay. So yeah.
Then I think it's the not being hungry in the morning. It might be just because we are also so trained to ignore our body signals that we kind of, our hunger cues are a little bit messed up on that level, but also maybe even the signaling itself, like the hormones that are responsible for feeling hungry and feeling full, are a little bit messed up out of us ignoring it. So it might be that going on. I'm not, if somebody's listening to it and thinking, okay, that's me, I'm not hungry in the morning. I'm not saying, you have to just stuff yourself if you're not hungry, but maybe, again, little changes, little things. Don't eat a huge meal, but eat a little bit, or maybe delay your coffee until a bit later in the day, right? This kind of little fixes could work.
I was actually gonna say that. I think if there's one actionable step that I always tell women, that it's like less complicated to implement, because I understand coffee, obviously it's very important for people, so I don't ask, and it is good for you, but taken at the right time. Absolutely no coffee on an empty stomach. If people, like for women, like our audience, absolutely no coffee on an empty stomach. It's okay to drink coffee, it has a lot of benefits, but when they do it on an empty stomach, like you used to do, you know what it's like. So it's just gonna cause havoc, in your body and your hormones. So with breakfast is fine. Again, as you said, something small, because like you very well said, your hunger cues are all over the place. They are suppressed because you don't eat. So you need to start eating little by little, and then your body is going to start asking you for food in the morning, and that's the healthy path.
Yeah. What are other maybe small changes that can be implemented? Whoever is listening or whoever will listen to the recording, if they recognize themselves in this and they're thinking, oh my God, that's me, I'm skipping lunch because I'm so busy, or I, as you said, they probably have to stop drinking coffee on an empty stomach. If somebody recognizes themselves in this, what are the little things that they can do, immediately starting tomorrow?
Well, that one would be the coffee, which I'm glad you brought it up because I had it in mind already. The other, I actually have 3 that people can start implementing tomorrow. One, do not skip meals. Especially for women, it doesn't matter what age you are, if you're reproductive years, perimenopause, it's essential that we don't skip meals. I can go maybe in the next podcast because I'm conscious of time. There's a whole hierarchy of hormones, why this is important, not to skip meals. But it's really supportive for your hormonal health. And your hormonal health, whether you're trying to get pregnant or not, going through perimenopause, we need to support our hormonal health for all the reasons we've mentioned before, right? The next one will be prioritize sleep. Prioritizing sleep is super important. Of course, I understand, especially for new moms, it's more challenging. But whenever you can, if that's a challenge because you have a newborn baby or something, also our body knows when there's a mom with a new baby, that's our body's adapting to it. It's a different story because our bodies, for women, I mean, they're meant to, what's the word, to go, like they're meant to be able to cope with that, right? Because that's natural evolutionary situation. But prioritizing sleep, it's super important. Sleep, I made it one of my main, it was one of the main changes I did on my healing journey, and it helps me so much. I mean, I still do it. And then another one, track your cycle. Tracking our cycle gives us so much more information, whether you have a healthy cycle or not. Because if you don't, then you can go informed with the doctor. Look, this is happening in this phase, rather than I don't feel well, and you don't even know when. When you track your cycle, you can also identify your energy patterns, your behavioral patterns. And if there's a specific pattern, it doesn't need to be a negative one, but if there's positive things, like with this productivity piece, for example, then you can be like, okay, this is where I'm most productive. Then I'm schedule my work commitments like that, if when possible, you know. And if you're not, then you also know, okay, well, I might just take it easier. Like now, for example, the conference in Austin, I give a real life example. I was starting my luteal phase. And I knew I had 2 full-on days in the conference. For whoever's been to conferences, you're there from like 10 a.m. till like 6, 7. And it's a lot. It's amazing, but a lot of like energy and socializing and da-da-da. Because I knew where I was in my cycle, I finished the conference on Saturday, both days actually, at like 6:30. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to be on my own. I'll skip the after parties because my body's it's just too demanding for my body already. I've been walking around meeting people. I'm just going to have dinner, have an early night, and support my body to be able to, do the conference the second day. And then I was flying to the day after the conference finished. So because I already knew where I was on my cycle. And I also could feel I was social, but not like extremely social. I was the social levels that I needed for the conference. Just examples like that. I'm sure you have as well some yourself.
Yeah, I agree with the sleep piece. That was actually something that I wanted to mention as well, and didn't, because this is also something that is very common, especially in the younger days, maybe as you are in university and then going into workforce initially, and wanting to prove yourself, and then maybe sleep kind of takes a backseat as you're trying to figure out the balance of working and socializing, having a life, and doing all the things at the same time. So yeah, sleep can take a backseat for that stage of life, but it's not sustainable and you cannot do it forever. So this is something that I also really relate to. Like, my sleep has not been great, and I was also not very good with it. I was not sort of allowing myself to improve it or work on it, because, well, sleep can wait, I need to work, or sleep can wait, I need to do all the other things. And then at some point, it cannot wait any longer, because then you are struggling, your body is screaming at you, and you need to take a step back. And then, the tracking of the cycle piece, I think this is so important. And maybe even we could go deeper. I think we will have to have a second life together to just go deeper into it. Maybe even, just tracking further, really tracking your fertile signs, so you know for sure when you are ovulating, and for sure what's going on, instead of just relying on an app that will tell you, okay, your average cycle is 31 days, so you're ovulating on day 15, and like that's good to start with, I think. But then kind of as you go deeper, maybe you will want to track it a bit deeper. But just understanding where you are and understanding how it impacts you, how it affects your moods, how it affects your energy levels is so helpful. You cannot always adjust to it, as we've been talking about, but maybe some little things that you can sync with your cycle, with where you are, starting from maybe working out or the way you move.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit in terms of your productivity, the way how you work. Maybe, going even deeper, the way you eat and the way you nourish your body together with your different stages of your cycle. That could be so helpful. Like we think this is such little things, but it could be already the change that I think some of us need and require for optimal well-being and productivity as well.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. I'm actually now thinking about it because we're doing a second live. I'm just thinking out loud that probably we could cover those areas. Since we cover activity now, we could cover those areas on the next one. I like what you did about the questions. So we could even like post the questions so people can have, because it is, they're all big pillars of our lives.
Exactly.
But I think I can probably speak for yourself. Aligning your life with your cycle, it's life-changing for the better. I've been doing like a long time now, and you probably have as well. And it's just so transformational, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Like I'm a year and a half-ish postpartum, so my cycle is still not back to normal. But I can tell you, like, if I thought a couple of years ago, before I had my child, that I would miss my period, or if somebody told me you will miss your period because you will miss this regularity and this, I would be like, you're crazy. You're joking, right? But in a way, I do miss this because I miss the predictability and regularity and kind of knowing exactly where I am and what I have to do in this phase and that phase. Because right now it's kind of like it can come tomorrow, it can come in 2 months and 3 months. So, so now it's a little bit hit and miss, but I do look forward to when it's more stable and regular and I can know exactly what's happening. So I think it is aligning your life with it can be really, really transformational, as you said.
Definitely.
But we'll go into it deeper. I think we have to.
Conscious of time as well.
Yeah.
It was such a good conversation. I didn't want to rush it. So
it was.
So glad. Thank you so much for the invitation. It was so good.
Thank you so much for joining me, and sorry for all the technical issues. I hope that we'll cover all these things and go deeper. We just scratched the surface, so we'll go deeper in the next live. Thank you for joining. I'm going to let you run.
It was a pleasure doing this with you, and I look forward to the next one.
Same. Okay. Have a nice day and see you soon. And bye. Thank you for listening.